Mick Schumacher has been a fan favourite since his 2-year stint at Haas. He was in an underwhelming car for both of those seasons, but many fans saw his 2 points finishes as proof that he could become a decent Formula 1 driver. He was never given the chance though, as Haas replaced him with Niko Hulkenberg for 2023, which, in retrospect, seems to have been a genius move. With discussions about contracts for next season and drivers changing teams starting up, Mick Schumacher's name seems to be linked with every bottom half team with a free seat. There is one team that might be a fit though. Could Mick be making his F1 return sooner than expected, or has his chance been and gone? Let's check it out. Mick came into Formula 1 with a lot of hype. All reports said he was a hard-working, talented prospect who was trying to prove he was good enough to be in Formula 1 without the Schumacher name. Being the son of one of the most successful Formula 1 drivers of all time was always going to open doors for him that wouldn't open to anyone else. There isn't any getting away from that. He was an F2 and F3 winner though, which is normally a decent indicator of driver quality, though Nick de Vries may have disproved that this season. He never stood a chance of living up to the hype surrounding him in 2021 because Haas had to make some tough financial decisions and didn't upgrade their car in any way for the season, betting big on 2022 instead. Mick did what was expected of him though, beating Nikita Mazepin, who was a middling F2 driver at best. 2022 was seen as Mick's real chance to shine, but he rarely seized the opportunity. He cost Haas an estimated $4 million in repairs, making him the most expensive driver on the grid that season in terms of repairs, beating out second-place Nicholas Latifi by $600,000. His 2 points finishes, banging him a total of 12 points, wasn't exactly standout either, and at the end of the season, Haas decided that they would be better off with a more experienced driver and let Mick's contract expire. Toto Wolff decided to pick up Mick as a reserve driver, presumably as some sort of PR stunt tying in Michael's time at Mercedes, because there's no way that George Russell or Lewis Hamilton are going anywhere anytime soon, if Toto has his way that is. Since then, he's taken the seat at Wolff's shoulder that Nick de Vries held for so many years before getting his chance at AlphaTauri. If there is any lesson to learn from de Vries' time at Toto's shoulder, it is that being a reserve at Mercedes is probably one of the worst ways to try and get to the F1 grid. Since Mick's arrival at Mercedes, the team has been singing his praises, and Wolff has been trying his hardest to get him a drive somewhere else, but no one's biting so far. Mick is looking for a seat at a very fortunate time, where the best-looking talents in the junior categories are not quite ready yet, and those that probably have enough experience don't have the raw pace to be a successful Formula 1 driver. So, with Logan Sargeant's seat at Williams potentially available, people are jumping at the idea of Schumacher getting another chance next season. Formula 1 correspondent Lawrence Barretto has said that Williams are doing all they can to support Logan Sargeant, but if he doesn't improve, then Mick Schumacher is the obvious contender to replace him. The British team, who sits 7th in the standings, already have highly rated Alex Albon tied up for 2024, Barretto wrote in a piece for the Formula 1 website. On the other side of the garage, rookie Logan Sargeant has had a solid but unspectacular start to life in Formula 1, and knows he needs to up his game to stick around for another season. Logan's season has been pretty underwhelming so far. The only time he's beaten his teammate during a race is when Alex Albon has retired. That includes sprint races, by the way. The same can be said for qualifying, where Alex has been the better of the two at every session this season. He has had some saving graces though, which we will get to. Lawrence continued saying, Williams have thrown their collective arm around the American shoulders and tried to keep the pressure off him in a bid to help him find his rhythm. They are backing him to succeed and earn a second campaign in blue, but he needs to not only find consistency, but also close the gap to Albon, particularly in qualifying, and get himself on the scoreboard. If he doesn't, his seat is under threat. Mick Schumacher would be an obvious contender, having briefly had talks with the team last year and having kept his hand in through his Mercedes reserve role, where he has earned public praise for his efforts from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Part of the reason that Mick is being so heavily linked to the seat at Williams is because they are already a Mercedes customer team, which is run by an ex-Mercedes employee. That ex-Mercedes employee, James Vowles, has made it very clear that his team is not a Mercedes B team or training academy for them though. So unless Williams, meaning Vowles, and the team's owners, Doralton Capital, really think Mick would be an improvement on Logan, then making the change makes little sense, despite Toto's desperation to get Mick into a seat. Logan is out of contract at the end of the season, and it is easy to see why people think he probably doesn't deserve another chance next year. 2 years in the FIA F3 competition saw Sargeant 19th and then 3rd the following year. 2021 was split between F3 and F2 for Logan, but his full year in F2 only yielded 4th in the driver standings. Given how difficult it is for even an F2 champion to make it into Formula 1, clearly Sargeant's rich family in the background gave him a helping hand. Williams backed him in F2, and having only had one full season in the Premier Junior category, he potentially should have been left for another season, but Williams decided they needed a driver now. Nonetheless, he has shown some good racing skills. Despite being in one of the worst cars on the grid, Sargeant has had the most number of places gained in the first laps of all the races in the first half of the 2023 F1 season. That is impressive, no matter how you spin it. He has also shown some big improvements in recent races. In Austria, he had a strong run to 13th, while at Silverstone he finished 11th and just 4 seconds behind the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. And while he finished 17th in Belgium, he was only 8 seconds behind his teammate. It's important to remember that Alex Albon is no slouch, as Red Bull gave him a season and a half to prove himself. Alex won't be the last driver to lose a Red Bull seat because of how good Max Verstappen is. Williams likes what they've seen from Sargeant recently as well. Williams head of vehicle performance Dave Robson said after Silverstone that the last 2 race weekends marked a clear turning point in Formula 1 rookie Logan Sargeant's 2023 season. Robson acknowledged that the return to Europe and tracks that Sargeant knows and which have a little more margin for error has been a boost for the youngster. I think by far and away Austria was his best race to that point, Robson said. I think to then come to Silverstone and back that up, he did a sterling job. I think his lap under pressure in Q1 after the red flag, having queued up, that was exceptionally good as well. And the kind of thing that a few races ago he may not have been able to cope with. The race was very good, and it wasn't easy, particularly the first 10 laps when there was a bit of drizzle and wind, and it was difficult to manage the tyres and just build a nice pace. But he got through all of that, and his pace wasn't far off Alex at all, and Alex was running the new front wing and not Logan. I think these 2 weekends have been really good and hopefully mark a clear turning point. Logan might get his first Formula 1 points this season, or he might not, but it is the performances of another driver that are proving that Mick might not be as good as many fans think he is. When Kevin Magnussen returned to Haas in 2022, Mick had a teammate that he could actually compare himself to for the first time. Magnussen is experienced but has never been outstanding. Despite that, Mick struggled to match the Danish driver's occasionally excellent performances. Kevin's incredible inconsistency meant that Mick actually won their head-to-head in race finishing position, but Kevin outqualified him 14 times out of 22. He also outscored Mick 25 points to 12. And perhaps most importantly, Magnussen was the 3rd least expensive driver on the grid in terms of repair bills, costing a mere $500,000 to Mick's $4 million. It isn't Kevin that is showing that Mick might not be worth a second shot though, it is Niko Hulkenberg. The German driver has amassed 9 points for the American team compared to Magnussen's solitary point. While their race pace appears relatively similar, the qualifying performance has been a noticeable divergence, with Hulkenberg outqualifying Magnussen by a margin of 9-3. Niko has made Q3 in 5 of the last 6 races, including an incredible second place in Spain, before a penalty knocked him back on the starting grid. The Haas has speed that Kevin cannot unlock. If Mick was soundly beaten by Kevin, who is now being soundly beaten by Niko, that reflects really badly on Mick. Do you think Mick stands a chance at a return to the grid with Williams? Or will Logan Sargeant be given another year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.